Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Of course, as always, I am here with you, Charles Hamaker, your host of the show, Circling Seattle Sports. Of course, the sole, lone, whatever individual word you want to use, provider of sports coverage here on Converge Media, as we are here in the Black Media Matter Studios. Good to be with you, as always, as we're here in the later, mid-late part of the month of May. Things continue to roll on. I might have said it at the end of the last week's show, but we are in the beginning of some of the busiest months here in Seattle sports. At least Seattle pro sports, that could go either way with, minor league, whatever have you. So we'll get into it here directly with our Seahawks, who they continue to be in some, off-season sort of stuff. They've got camp starting up. I've talked every last few weeks, every time at the end of the Seahawks segment, about how we're getting to mini camp and stuff like that. We are just getting into that phase. So that begins today, Monday, by the time you're seeing this. So let's get into the team notes that we have for the Seahawks. May 13th, the team signed linebacker Devin Richardson and defensive end Nathan Pickering that day, adding a pair of players who took part in rookie minicamp as tryout players earlier in the month. Richardson played at Washington State University last season after transferring from Texas and had a productive season with the Cougars, recording 62 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and a forced fumble in 12 games. Richardson, who is from Klein, Texas, began his collegiate career at New Mexico State, where he earned freshman All-American honors from the Football Writers Association of America before he eventually transferred to Texas, where he spent 2 seasons. Pickering, who played at Mississippi State, appeared in 41 games with 30 starts in his collegiate career, recording 124 tackles, 30 tackles for loss, and 13 sacks. Pickering was also named to the 2023 SEC Fall Academic Honor Roll. Both of these two make it 3 tryout players to sign following rookie minicamp alongside nose tackle Buda Jones, giving the Seahawks a total of 19 undrafted rookies on the roster. So it's always cool, when you've got the undrafted players who are able to make the roster, who make an impact enough to get noticed, and it'll be really interesting to see, as we get through camp here and then later on, leading into the regular season, to see if these players are able to make enough of an impact to get the coach's eyes and make the final roster for opening week. But that's a while to go from here. And, with the undrafted free agents, I always think of Doug Baldwin and his story. So always cool to see. Filipino pride. We go over here May 15th, the NFL. I almost said NBSL. We're getting ahead of myself there. NFL announced the 2024 schedule for teams, and we will look at the Seahawks here. It's going to be an interesting one. There's going to be a lot to look at for the team to break down with these different games throughout the year and how they'll go. So we'll go into it just by listing them off. The season opener is Sunday, September 8th versus the Broncos at Seattle with a 1:05 start. That's going to be a CBS game. Game 2 on the road, September 15th at the New England Patriots, is a 10 o'clock start on Fox. September 22nd in Week 3 versus Miami and the Dolphins here in Seattle, 1:05 p.m. kickoff on CBS. Then the first primetime game the Seahawks get, I believe they got 4 primetime games on the schedule here. September 30th at the Detroit Lions. That's a Monday night game at 5:15 p.m. kickoff on ABC. Then the next week, October 6th versus the Giants, is a 1:25 start on a Sunday here in Seattle on CBS. Their first Thursday game of the year versus the 49ers on October 10th is a 5:15 start. Those are on Prime Video now. Next week, October 20th at the Atlanta Falcons. Interesting to see who their quarterback will be at that time. It's a 10 a.m. start on Fox. October 27th versus Buffalo and the Bills here in Seattle is a 1:05 start, also on Fox. Got a string of Fox games here. Then the next week, another divisional rival after that early game against the 49ers. Sunday, November 3rd versus the LA Rams is a 1:25 kickoff time on Fox. Excuse me. November 10th is the bye week for the Seahawks, so kind of a middle early bye week. Not bad, could be worse. Um, November 17th at the 49ers on Sunday is a 105 start on Fox. Um, November 24th versus the Arizona Cardinals at home is a 125 start on Fox on the Sunday. December 1st at the New York Jets. So going at the New York Jets, they're an interesting team to watch as well. As a 10 a.m. start on Fox to begin the month of December on a Sunday. And the next week, December 8th at Arizona and the Cardinals is a 105 start. So no funky Thursday game against the Cardinals this year. December 15th versus the Green Bay Packers at home is a Sunday night football game with a 5:20 kickoff on NBC. As we get into the last few games of the season here, December 22nd versus the Minnesota Vikings is a 1:05 p.m. start on Fox. Thursday, December 26th, so the second Thursday night game that the Seahawks get. This one against, obviously, the Bears, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, all the excitement there with Chicago. Thursday, December 26th, the day after the Christmas holiday, is a 5:15 p.m. start on Prime. And then Saturday or Sunday, January 4th or 5th, the date, time, and TV designation are still to be determined, is versus the LA Rams to close out the season at home at Lumen Field. The Seahawks also announced their 3 preseason games. They'll play preseason week 1 in Los Angeles against the Chargers, week 2 in Nashville against the Tennessee Titans, before closing out at home in week 3 of those preseason games against the Cleveland Browns. Those dates and times will also be determined at a later date. So we'll look at that more in depth probably next week, just so we can give it the time and space that it deserves, considering it is the NFL schedule release and you can look at so many different variations and angles. Just, with the offseason as well, there's not a ton going on, so it'll be fun to pick and poke at that. On the 16th of May, continuing to roll along with the team-related news, there were some rumors being put around the internet that the Seahawks were going to get another jersey this year, a different jersey, a rebrand of sorts. That the mock-ups looked like you took the throwback jerseys that they started to wear this year, inspired by their 90s era themed looks, and have them more modernized and kind of mixed with the current uniforms to create new looks. Bamka Dota of the Seattle Times said, in relation to any tweets making the rounds about new Seahawks uniforms of any sort, he reconfirmed that the team has nothing new planned for the 2024 season. Seattle will go into the 2024 season with the same 4 jerseys as last year, the regular home and road jerseys that we know, the action green jerseys, and the retro 90s jerseys that made their debut last season. So put that to bed. I mean, I always kind of hesitate when I see those rumors anyway, but, if the team is telling a trusted beat reporter this, I'm going to believe that. And then to wrap up the Seahawks team-related news, on the 17th, the team signed rookie 6th-round pick Michael Jarrell, making him the 8th and final member of the Seahawks draft class. All Seahawks rookies are under contract 2+ months before training camp begins. So that's really important to see. In past years, the team has dealt with some of the rookies holding out for more money when they've selected them. That happened last year with Devin Witherspoon. I believe he held out 2 days before he ended up signing his rookie deal. So Seahawks got all members of its draft class under contract. Interesting to see how that will play out, and which members of this draft class will really make the big impact. So something to look forward to. I mean, Jarrell here, the 6th-round pick at the University of Findlay, the GMAC Offensive Lineman of the Year in 2023, started 40 straight games to finish out his career at Findlay, and comes to Seattle with what General Manager and President of Football Operations John Shiner called amazing upside. He was primarily a basketball player in high school. Jarrell was a starter for only 1 year in high school, leading to him landing at Division II Findlay. 6'5", 294 pounds, obviously a big athlete, and impressed as a participant at Ohio State's Pro Day. So that was really cool to see. We look at that. I mean, there's some of the few big names inside. Also, another offensive lineman, 3rd-round pick, Christian Haynes. So he signed on Friday, May 17th. As the 7th player in the draft class to sign his rookie deal. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about Haynes when he got drafted. 4-year starter, 2-year team captain at UConn, started 49 consecutive games in his career, and was twice named 3rd-team AP All-American. He's expected to compete for that starting job at the right guard position, with Laken Tomlinson expected to get the left guard spot, but obviously got to go to camp and compete there. a lot of excitement with this game. He's got good length. He's got initial quickness. Can get under people. He's got good hips. His pass protection is good. Strong hands. He's a good anchor, which is a big deal when you talk about offensive linemen. And the experience is something that's really impressed people as well. So, you play a ton of football. 50 of 51 starts. He's had only 48 pressures and 1,687 snaps. Very experienced. Some that the Seahawks scouts really, really enjoyed. So, that'll wrap up our Seahawks segment of the show. I'll read it again so that you know about it. With Seattle being one of the 8 teams with a new head coach in the 2024 year per NFL rules, Mike McDonald and his staff will conduct that voluntary minicamp that they did back in late April from the 22nd to the 24th. That was phase 2 of their offseason program. Phase 3 began today as the Seahawks will conduct 10 organized team activity workouts through June the 6th. McDonald will also hold a mandatory minicamp from June 11th to 13th to wrap up that off-season program that we mentioned. No live contact is permitted during this period, but 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 team drills will be allowed alongside individual and group drills. The first 2 days of these organized team activity workouts are not open to the media. They are open to the media starting on Wednesday. We shift over here into our Mariners side of things, and, mostly positive. I mean, just with some injury news that we've got to go over here. I know last week was largely dominated by the Matt Brash news, getting Tommy John surgery last Wednesday, the Wednesday before last. And then, they're currently on a really tough 10-game road trip. So we'll get into it here with the series against the Royals to wrap up a 6-game homestand beginning on May 13th versus Kansas City, a 6-2 victory. As starting pitcher and our player of the game, George Kirby, was excellent. 7 innings pitched, only 3 hits allowed, all of them singles scattered throughout the game. No runs against, no walks, and 6 strikeouts as Kirby returned to the form that we're used to from George there. And nice to get the offense. 6 runs will help you win just about any game, and especially considering this pitching staff that the Mariners have in the rotation, it's hard to beat that. I also want to shout out, you're seeing the photo of the game here by Blake Dolan. Blake works as a team photographer with Ballard FC, who Circling Seattle Sports stuff does cover, and has joined us for a few games here and there. So shout out to Blake, who did a great job. I think I'll include one of the Kirby photos with the graphic that they've got in the background when George pitches in there as well. So May 14th, Game 2 of the series versus the Royals, a 2-4 loss. This one was a tough one. Starting pitcher Logan Gilbert was really strong through 6 innings, got into some trouble in the 7th, and the Royals made him pay. The Royals are an aggressive team at the plate. They like to swing the bat. They are not going to be afraid to make contact, and they were able to do so on a pitch that kind of got away from Logan. It wasn't really a bad pitch per se, but it was one that it wasn't in the location that he wanted it to be, and the Royals made him pay. Our Mariners lose 2-4, 2 runs coming from solo homers, one of them coming from our player of the game in this one, designated hitter Mitch Hamaker. Mitch, despite the rest of the Mariners offense struggling largely outside of Luke Raley, who got the other solo homer, Mitch had 3 hits, 1 run, and 1 RBI in this game to go along with 1 walk. So on base 4 times on this one, and one of his 3 hits was that solo homer to cut into the Kansas City lead late into this game, but it wasn't enough as the rest of the offense wasn't able to pick things up, and it sent us into a rubber match on Wednesday to close out this series and 6-game homestand. The Mariners would win that rubber match by a score of 4-2 on May 15th as our player of the game, right fielder Luke Raley, recorded 2 hits and 1 run. Luke was big in this one. Not only the 2 hits and the 1 run, but he got into third base on what would have been a force out. The Mariners had the bases loaded early. Luis Urias hits a tough bouncer right at former Mariner Adam Frazier at third base. Yes, he's playing third base. Frazier's played all over for the Royals this year. He actually robbed a homer in right field for them earlier this season. It was kind of impressive. It is pretty impressive, not kind of. But Rayleigh's speed was able to help him beat out the force out at third, which would have ended things there. Instead, he beats it out. It's a big play. Rayleigh's speed, his constant effort to get better, and some other things that we'll talk about in a bit just make him such a valuable player to this team at this current moment and should make him valuable throughout the course of the season. So the Mariners win that one. It's a winning homestand. They win that series there. I believe it's 8 series wins out of the last 9 attempts. They get a day off in Baltimore, and then they begin a tough 10-game road trip. I believe it's at some point it was announced, it was read during the Royal Series. The Mariners have 30 games in 31 days, so there's not going to be a lot of time for them to get a break. They begin a 10-game road trip, a three-city road trip with 3 games against the Baltimore Orioles, one of the best teams in the American League. May 17th at the Orioles, a 2-9. Did I say Royals? I meant Orioles. May 17th at the Orioles, a 2-9 loss. Our player of the game, shortstop Dylan Moore. Moore, 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 RBI in this one, a double and a solo homer there. So Dylan Moore continues to do well. He's in the leadoff spot in this game. This was a tough one. Baltimore really got after Bryce Miller. They're a team that can hit the fastball really well. They're a young team that's not so young anymore. They've got a lot of talented hitters in this lineup. As I said, they're one of the best teams in the American League. And they got after Bryce Miller early. He ended up allowing 5, but he held it to 5 for a long time. The Mariners made it 2-5 later into the game. The offense, though, couldn't close the gap with those 3 runs, and the Orioles were able to add on late to get this game out of reach. May 18th in Game 2 of the series against the Orioles, the Mariners win that one 4-3. Our player of the game, once again, Dylan Moore, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 RBI. Had a double in this one as the Mariners made a comeback effort. They were down 2 runs early. They were able to get 4 runs in the later innings of the game. Gunnar Henderson does hit a home run late to bring them within a run, but Andres Munoz does move around that and locks things down to get the Mariners the win in this one. And it's a nice comeback effort. Demo was part of that. He, with that double, he's got 8 extra base hits over the last 11 games as he's played, which is pretty impressive. Nice to see him swinging the bat well. You know, him at shortstop has just been such a valuable asset to this team as J.P. Crawford has been out of the lineup dealing with that oblique injury. So that set up the rubber match. May 19th at the Orioles, they would lose this one 3-6. Our player of the game, third baseman Luis Urias. Urias, 2 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs in this one. Kind of another similar situation. The Mariners fall behind. They do kind of climb back into it, but ultimately Baltimore pulls away, and Seattle loses this series, just the second series loss in their last 9 attempts. So we'll go straight into it with Player of the Week. I kind of teased it a bit, but Luke Raley has been very impressive for this Mariners ball club over the past 7 games and really the last few weeks. Raley, over the last 7 games, 11 hits, 5 runs, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, a 407 batting average, a 407 on base percentage, and a 704 slugging percentage, which, you know, again, just you look at those numbers. I mean, hitting 407 over 7 games is really impressive. Raley's been getting consistent playing time, and some that stood out during the last homestand. In one of the post-game pressers, Scott Service said that this is the hardest working club that he's ever managed, and he said that Luke Raley's at the top of that list with how hard he works. So just tells you more about Raley, and we've seen more from him, whether it's running things down, playing the outfield. He got a start at first base over the past week, hitting the ball a lot better lately, so very impressive to see there from Luke. We go into it some unfortunate injury news is always unfortunate, but we got some key contributors who have been unavailable for the Mariners the last week or so. On May 14th, Mitch Garver was pulled from the lineup just ahead of game time. Garver is dealing with spasms in his upper back and trap area, which is different from when he was experiencing back spasms earlier in the season. He has not been in the lineup since. Wait, no, he has. Pretty sure he has. I'll double check that just in case because I don't want to give you false information. Yeah, that was on the 14th, and nope, he was in the lineup for the Baltimore series. Okay, he's back. But something to note, of course, because Garver does have quite a laundry list of injuries that he's suffered throughout the course of his career. On May 16th, J.P. Crawford was expected to fly to Baltimore to join the Mariners that day, but he did not. His hand was still sore and a little swollen after getting hit by a pitch. They weren't certain when he would join the team. He did get hit with a pitch on the hand in Tacoma the night before the 16th in the second game of his rehab assignment. So he was feeling good outside of that. There was nothing that was holding him back in Tacoma, but then he got hit in the hand, which was unfortunate. We'll circle back with JP there in a minute. On May 17th, Jorge Polanco, who was out of the lineup that day, which made it the 5th consecutive game that he had been out of the lineup. He was pulled the same day from the lineup that Garver was. He had been testing out his hamstring on the 17th with the trainer pregame. It didn't sound like he'd be available at all throughout the course of the series in Baltimore, which he wasn't. The team had to make a decision soon on the potential of an IL stint. Um, yeah, he tested out that sore hamstring on Sunday afternoon at Camden Yards, going through some explosive running drills with team strength coaches and trainers. He appeared to be moving well and without discomfort. He is not in the lineup on the 20th either. Oh, wow. Okay, we've got some other notes. We'll finish it out here. Also, on the 17th, the rookie outfielder Jonathan Clase flew to Baltimore and joined the team ahead of Sunday's series finale against the Orioles. He was part of the taxi squad, and it was a precautionary move in case Jorge Polanco does need an IL stint. We do have some more injury news that is happening live. Here on the 20th, J.P. Crawford did join the Mariners on the 19th in New York after they came up from Baltimore to finish their series. He's going to do a pregame workout. He did tell the Mariners he was ready to go today, but it's likely that they're waiting to see him go through a workout and then put him in the lineup tomorrow. Also, in injury-related news, this past weekend, Sam Haggerty tore his Achilles over the weekend with AAA Tacoma and is out for the season, which is quite unfortunate. He had to play in the outfield. He fell up against the wall. Not fell up. He ran into the wall, and so the Mariners will be without Sam Haggerty for the rest of the year, which is very unfortunate there. I'll have to keep into it because we've got other team news. May 13th, the team traded reliever Tyson Miller to the Chicago Cubs for minor league infielder Jake Slaughter. Miller had been designated for assignment as a move to get Brian Wu back on the 40-man roster, and so instead of him getting outrighted or making it through waivers, he gets traded to the Cubs. The Mariners receive infielder Jake Slaughter, who's a 27-year-old. Slaughter is batting .297 with 17 runs, 6 doubles, 5 homers, 17 RBIs, 15 walks, and 10 stolen bases, getting on base at a .392 percentage, slugging .486 with an .878 OPS in 32 games with AAA Iowa this season. The infielder started games at first base, second base, and third base for the Cubs' AAA affiliate. He was selected by the Cubs in the 18th round of the 2018 MLB first-year player draft out of LSU, where he played for the Tigers for 2 seasons. In 459 career minor league games, the right-handed hitting Slaughter is batting .264 with 249 runs, 85 doubles, 9 triples, 58 homers, 260 RBIs, 160 walks, and 85 stolen bases. In addition to receiving Slaughter in that trade, the Mariners also received cash considerations. The Cubs received relief pitcher Tyson Miller. I was really excited for Miller coming out of camp. He did pretty well, 309 average against 12-1 strikeout to walk ratio and 11.2 innings pitched. So just tough. That's how it goes. But the Mariners get an infielder there at the AAA level who looks to contribute right away. On the 15th, continuing with team-related news, outfielder Dominic Canzone was reinstated from the 10-day injured list with that left AC joint sprain. He had been getting in rehab games with the Rainiers, and he joined the team on the 15th and has been in the lineup relatively regularly since then. On the 15th, also, this is a bad callback because it mentioned someone who we just talked about. Infielder/outfielder Sam Haggerty was optioned to AAA Tacoma. So just to talk about it here, amongst other things, the Royal Series, they're a team that's much improved this year from what they've been in recent seasons. So we get a series win over them is no slouch of a feat. Happy to get that series win there. Tough to see, Logan Gilbert late into that outing, who had been rolling along well, struggle in that 7th inning. The hitting's a little bit better. You face the Orioles, though, again, one of the best teams in the American League. Their pitching's been solid. You faced Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, and then I think it was John Means. Yeah, it was John Means on the first night, and just tough. They hit the fastball well. Your pitchers, a lot of them have strong fastballs, and that's how it's going to go sometimes. And, seeing the fight in some of those late games was nice. Obviously, there needed to be more fight in the 2 losses, but I don't know. It's not a series that's the end of the world, and I'm not the guy to sit here and call any series the end of the world, especially considering the heater that you've been on in terms of winning, 8 of the last 10 series that you've played in. Just, you're going to lose a series eventually. It's just kind of how it's going to be. And to lose it to an Orioles team like this year, it's not the worst thing in the world. Getting into the upcoming series against the Yankees, though, 4 games against the Yankees and how well they've been playing, that's not going to be easy either. And then you close out that road trip against the Nationals. So, but looking at some of the injury news, concerning a little bit with Garver and Polanco. Polanco's dealt with both. Garver and Polanco are guys who have had tough injury histories to an extent. Polanco's not in the lineup as of Monday. By the time that this should be going out, the game will be going on anyway. He's not in the lineup that they've put out today. And Crawford, I mean, I understand them wanting to not have him just jump into it immediately and have him go through the pregame workout. So I imagine, knock on wood here, we'll get JP in the lineup for game 2 of that series tomorrow on Tuesday. For Haggerty, that's just a really tough break. I know he suffered an injury in the 2022 season at the end of the year, late into the season. I believe it was in September. Has been such a guy who has been so versatile for the Mariners throughout the time that he's been here. And, anytime someone has a season-ending injury, it's really rough. You got to go through the long rehab. You're left – it teaches you a lot about yourself because you just got to spend so much time with yourself. So, really hurting for Sam and hoping that his rehab goes well and that he's able to get through that, with all the help that he needs. So – we look ahead here. The Mariners sit at a record of 25 wins and 22 losses, which is good for first in the American League West. They're a game and a half above the Texas Rangers, who are in second place. As I mentioned, looking ahead here, a 4-game set against the New York Yankees. 3 of those games, May 20th, 21st, and 22nd, are 4:05 p.m. Pacific time first pitch times. May 23rd at the Yankees is a 9:35 a.m. first pitch time, as the Mariners will get out of New York and head back down the coast to Washington, D.C., where they'll play the Nationals for 3 games on the weekend. May 24th against Washington is a 3:45 p.m. first pitch. May 25th against the Nationals is a 1:05 p.m. first pitch. And May 26th at the Nationals is a 10:35 a.m. first pitch. We go over here.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about those M's?
Oh, I'm excited.
I know. Where are you going to watch all those away games, though?
Away games. I was thinking of coming here since, after all, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love that idea. Hope to see y'all here.
Here into our storm-related news, and not the cleanest or most fun start to the season, but the first 3 games they've played of the season all over the past week, good learning opportunities for this Storm team in a few different ways. So we'll get into it here. Opening night, May 14th versus the Minnesota Lynx at Climate Pledge Arena was unfortunately a 70-83 loss. Our player of the game forward, Nneka Ogwumike, 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 steals on the night. This is a tough one. I mean, it was nice to see the Storm debut their new Rebel jerseys this year, as you can see in the photo here, a photo of the game by Liv Lyons. It was a tough one. I mean, the first half wasn't horrible. I mean, there were some notable things for the Storm where they just needed to be better shot selection-wise, and there was definitely some occasions where it was apparent that the systems were still getting put into place and that players were still getting used to each other, which, when you have just like a 2-week camp, it's not so easy to just fully gain that chemistry. And then the second half, Minnesota took full advantage. They were more physical. Alana Smith was doing well for the Lynx. Nafisha Collier is just a problem every time. So that was tough there, and the Storm lose game 1. And I don't think the Lynx get as much credit as they should. They've got a talented roster. They got Alyssa Peely in the draft to bring them a great, talented, physical player. The Lynx have got a strong squad. Courtney Williams at the guard position. There's a lot going on with Minnesota, and they can be a problem. So I don't think they get as much credit. And they handled the Storm in the first 2 games of the season. May 17th at the Lynx on Friday. So a few days after Game 1, the Storm get a rematch chance against the Lynx. They lose in double overtime by a score of 93-102. Once again, our player of the game forward, Nneka Ogwumike. Nneka, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, 5 steals, and 1 block on the night. She did leave late into this game with an ankle injury, unfortunately, so that's something to watch and keep track of. But this one was tough. First half, kind of similar situation. The Storm they had strong moments in this one. The Lynx do get a nice little run to end the first half. Third period, not so great. but not as bad. And then the fourth quarter, they win that one to force overtime. In the first overtime, Seattle's kind of going ahead and getting the first step, but the Lynx are right there with them to go into second overtime. The Lynx just pull away in this one. Plus, the Storm were without NECA, and Jewel Lloyd had fouled out as well. I believe it's the first time she's ever fouled out. It might be first or second. And Minnesota, again, they're a very talented team. I don't think they get as much credit win in this one. But some learning moments throughout this one. The Storm definitely looked better in Game 2. And they're doing all of this without Nika Mule, which we'll talk about in a minute. May 19th, to close out the week, in the second game of a 3-game road trip that ends tonight, actually. May 19th at the Washington Mystics, an 84-75 win. Our player of the game, guard Jewel Lloyd, 24 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. Seattle gets a good effort in this one. Skylar Diggins-Smith, who had some nice performances in the last few games as well. And Jewel Lloyd put together a nice performance for the team. Ezzie Magbegor with a double-double in this one. You know, all 3 members of the core 4 contributing throughout the first 3 games. Jewel Lloyd struggling through the first 2 games. Shooting-wise, she was just 7 for 40 in her first 2 games, but finding more of her footing in Game 3 here. And the Storm are able to get through and get their first win of the season against the Mystics in Game 3.
Hey, Storm fans, it's Christian Brassel, your Storm beat writer for Circling Seattle Sports. You know, there's been a lot of critique, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of criticism of the Seattle Storm throughout the 2024 WNBA season. Some rightfully so, some not so. As far as the I do believe that this team fielded 2 great players, Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins-Smith, to compete for a WNBA championship. Does that mean that was going to happen overnight? No. Same way it happened for the Liberty last year. It took time, nearly almost half a season, for the Liberty to really hit on all cylinders, bond as a team, get that chemistry going that they really needed. And I believe that Seattle would be in the same fate. For the simple fact that Skylar Diggins-Smith has not played basketball in 20-plus months, this is a factor that I feel like has not been talked about enough, yet still finds a way to criticize a player without providing proper context. You know, we as media members have to do better. We have to understand. And I'm just not understanding why we don't give certain players grace, but we extend that certain grace to other players. Coach spoke about it in the post game today, and she was visibly upset about it because Skylar Diggins-Smith continually gets critiqued. She continually gets ridiculed for things that come out of her control as she, adjusted becoming a professional athlete again after missing 20-plus months. And it's an 0-4 start. It's 4 games out of a 40-game season. There is perfectly enough time to right the ship. We just have to give Skylar Diggins-Smith some grace, give the Storm some patience, and let them gel into who they're going to be. It's going to take time. Won't happen overnight, but it will happen.
Our player of the week, as we can finally get back to players of the week, since we don't have just one game over the past 7 days, is forward Nneka Ogwumike. You could probably assume that with me saying her name for the first 2 games. 22 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, and a 0.5 assists per game for Nneka in her first 2 games as a Storm player, or as she would say during training camp, as a Stormy. Tough to not have her in Game 3, but nice to see the Storm still be able to win. It's just really been incredible to watch her in a Storm uniform, for one. I'll salute Madam President. But just seeing the steadying presence that she is, and when the Storm can really start to play off of her, whether it's, playing off of her in terms of handoffs, dribble handoffs, getting downhill off of her, stuff like that, it'll be really fun for the Storm to be able to take advantage and see what they can unlock, especially seeing her and Ezzie Magbegor play together in Game 1. It was really impressive to see them guard the rim, and I'm just, when you can fully get this defense set and assignment set and the team used to playing with each other, it's going to be dangerous to watch. So not a lot of injury news outside of what I just mentioned. We'll look at the availability reports for the last 3 games that we just talked about. For opening night and then Game 2 at Minnesota, Nika Mule out as she continues to wait with pending visa approval. She was questionable for that second game against Minnesota, as the team was hopeful that things would go through. They did not, and just before game time, she was ruled as out. Game 3 at Washington, Nneka Ogwumike was questionable. She was later ruled out with that ankle. It seems like they're being precautionary with that. After Game 2 against Minnesota, Nneka was asked about it. She said she'll be fine, and she wasn't really worried about it. But obviously the Storm, with the quick turnaround, just a day between games. I was trying to get ahead of myself and talk about games. And then their third game of the road trip, second game after that Mystics game, they're just being the next day. I'm sure they're being cautious there. Nneka is a game time decision. We haven't pre-game availability isn't by the time we're recording this, so we probably won't be able to know. Nneka is a game time decision, so she could play in the May 20th game against the Liberty, but as of the time of recording, we are not sure. We do have some team-related notes here, quite a bit for the Storm, as we continue to try and be one of the best outlets in covering everything going on with the Storm. And it happened after we were recording last week's episode, so we didn't get to talk about it. But on the 13th, on Monday, the team announced their 2024 roster. Jewel Lloyd, Ezzie Magbagor, Nneka Ogwumike, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Sammy Whitcomb, Kiana Williams, Nika Mule, their second-round pick, Jordan Horston, Mercedes Russell, Dulcie Fankam-Mangiadu, and Victoria Vivians round out the 11-player roster for the Storm. We'll go over a few highlights here. Obviously, Jewel Lloyd broke the WNBA's single-season scoring record with 939 points last season and earned all WNBA team honors for the third time in her career. Ezzie, who turned 24 at the end of the last season, was named to the all-defensive team for the second time in her career after finishing second in blocks and 10th in rebounding. Obviously, you've got the big offseason additions in Nneka and Skylar. Nneka, the 2016 league MVP and a six-time All-WNBA pick, coming off another strong season, finishing sixth in scoring and rebounds. Skylar Diggins-Smith, a six-time All-WNBA selection as well, one of the top point guards in the game, posting career averages of 16.7 points, 4.9 rebounds, 4.9 assists, 2.9 rebounds, and 1.3 steals per game. Did not play in the 2023 season after giving birth to her second child. Sammy Whitcomb, obviously the University of Washington alumni, coming back to provide depth at that guard position. Put into a kind of a tough position last year as she had to play a lot of point guard, with Seattle really not having an established point guard of sorts. The three-point specialist averaged 9.7 points per game while hitting 38.5% from beyond the arc last year. Kiana Williams and Nika Mule helped round out the backcourt for Seattle. Williams was originally drafted by the Storm back in 2021, looked sharp in the final preseason game of the year for Seattle, scoring 9 points. Nika Mule, one of the top guards in college last season and the Storm's first pick in this past year's draft, provides someone who's going to be verbal on the court, great defensive effort. It really has shown leadership at that point guard position despite being a rookie, and can provide some offensive punch for you as well. Really going to be excited to see Nika when she's able to play in games. As when I saw her in camp in that lone preseason game, there's definitely the tools there to be a really strong contributor for this Storm team. So really excited at that. In the front court, obviously Jordan Horston in her second year. Mercedes Russell coming back as an established veteran, I believe the longest tenured Storm player, I think, with the team currently, and Dulcie Fankam-Mangiadu. Victoria Vivians joins the team as that veteran addition as she signed in the offseason. Horston became just the fourth Storm player to earn WNBA All-Rookie honors, averaging 6.9 points, 5.1 rebounds, 1.6 assists, and 1.2 steals during her inaugural season. Dulcie averaged 4.1 points and 4.5 rebounds per game for the Storm, a really strong rebounder for this team. And if she can really work on her offensive game, going to be a strong contributor inside for the Seattle. Russell returned to the court 2023 after not being available in 2022 as she dealt with a recurring injury. She was a WNBL Finals MVP with the Southside Flyers in Australia during the league's off-season. She led the WNBL in field goal percentage and finished fifth in rebounding. Victoria Vivians comes to Seattle from Indiana in the Fever, where she spent 5 seasons, averaging 7.5 points, 3.2 rebounds, and 1.5 assists during that time. With her, she was the player that Noelle Quinn stood out to me that when she was in the starting lineup for those 2 preseason games, Noelle Quinn said she's a player that we can really trust to not have to demand the ball. She's really able to do her own thing with the other core 4 on the court for Seattle, and Lloyd, Skylar, NECA, and Ezzy. So that was something that stood out to me, and we've kind of seen that through these first few games here as well, and as well as camp. So there's that. We look at the final roster move that was made on the 13th. The team waived for Joyner Holmes. Holmes averaged 3.3 points and 2.5 rebounds in 34 games last season with Seattle, which was her 4th season in the league overall. She played in both preseason games. She had a 13-point effort in the Storm's preseason opener in Edmonton, provided some strong versatility, but unfortunately did not make the roster this year. She's got a lot of talent. I mean, like I mentioned, the versatility is a big thing. Versatility in sports will get you places. Just tough with the roster restrictions, the cap restrictions in the WNBA. The Storm not able to keep Joyner. Continuing with team-related news, we got quite a bit. On the 14th, the Storm and its social justice platform Force for Change announced on that day stats for youth partners and beneficiaries for the 2024 season. Each year since the inception of Stats for Youth, the team partners with corporate community to benefit nonprofits that align with the 4 Force for Change pillars, which are amplification of Black women, support of BIPOC communities, support of LGBTQIA2+, communities, and voting, education, and legislation. Stats for Youth is a season-long program that tracks Storm player stats and turns each rebound, assist, free throw, three-pointer, and block into dollar donations for designated nonprofits. Since it was created back in 2021, Stats for Youth has raised just over $150,000 for nonprofits in the greater Puget Sound region. In celebration of the franchise's 25th anniversary, in addition to this money raised on the court, the Storm Foundation will bring all final gifts to $25,000. With this commitment, the Storm will double the funds raised for this program by the end of the 2024 season. So we'll go over here the different nonprofits that are being mentioned this year. So Rebounds for Housing, presented by Starbucks, benefits the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. For each rebound made by the Storm this year, Starbucks will donate $7 to the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, up to $10,000. The Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle is a nonprofit offering a wide range of programs and services designed to address housing needs, financial literacy barriers, and access to basic economic resources in low-income and otherwise vulnerable communities. Nice for rebounding, because the Storm currently lead the WNBA in rebounds per game by the time that this is coming out at 42.7. So that'll be nice to see. Funny, because I just knew the stat off the top of my head there. I had to put it in my stats post for the game day. So, Free Throws for the Future, presented by Alaska Airlines, benefits the Girl Scouts of Western Washington. For every free throw the Storm make, Alaska Airlines will donate 1,500 mileage plan airline miles to Girl Scouts of Western Washington, where Girl Scouts in our community are stretching their boundaries, trying new things, and finding safe spaces to be themselves, ultimately growing into leaders of courage, confidence, and character. Donated miles will make travel opportunities, both domestic and international, possible for local Girl Scout youth who are planning their next adventure. Alaska Airlines has been a long-standing community partner with Seattle Storm since 2019, prior to the Stats for Youth inception. In addition to this, the Storm will make a $5,000 contribution to Girl Scouts of Washington, Western Washington, at the end of the season. Fans can also get involved by donating their unused mileage plan miles via Alaska's CARES Mile program. The Community Assist, presented by BECU, is benefiting Y-We for the 4th consecutive year. For every time the Storm record an assist, BECU will make a $12 donation up to $10,000 to Young Women Empowered, acronym Y-We, an organization that cultivates the power of diverse young women and gender-expansive youth in Seattle. Their transformative mentorship-based programs center on belonging, wellness, and thriving, and support the next generation of leaders and change makers in our community. Threes for Treehouse, presented by Carter Subaru, also a 4th-year program within this Force for Change initiative. Carter Subaru and the Storm will donate $30 for every three-pointer made to Treehouse, a nonprofit serving youth in foster care, up to $10,000, of course, by the end of the season. In addition, the two will team up to provide unique experiences to the youth attending the institution. Rounding things out is blockchain presented by Coinbase, benefiting TechBridge girls. Coinbase and the Storm joined forces for the third consecutive year to donate $60 for each Storm block this season, up to $10,000 to TechBridge Girls, which is a national nonprofit that builds equity in STEM education by equipping educators and professionals with the equity training and curricula that empowers them to act as catalysts for BIPOC girls on their STEM journey. We're going to keep it rolling here because we do have quite a bit. May 16th, the Storm announced that they're excited its 10th annual toy drive benefiting Seattle Children's. Between May 16th and May 25th, fans can donate toys or make financial contributions supporting children undergoing medical treatment via the official campaign page. We'll include that in the link in the description, of course. During the 2023 toy drive, the Storm helped raise over $8,750 for Seattle Children's and donated over 500 toys through fan contributions and team engagement. Storm fans can donate items during the May 25th game against the Washington Mystics. You can visit the Seattle Children's Amazon wish list for items of greatest need. Founded and run initially by a group of philanthropist women in 1907, Seattle Children's is at the forefront of medical research, working to cure childhood disease and improve outcomes for children all over the world. The organization specializes in meeting the unique physical, emotional, and developmental needs of children from infancy through young adulthood by the outstanding work of its physicians in nearly 60 pediatric subspecialties. We will be bringing some toys to that game on the 25th, and we will include links to that throughout the week to drum up more interest for that toy drive. So you'll see that on our pages as well. Goodness, there's quite a lot for the Storm. So, I mean, just go over it. It's always really cool to see the initiatives that the Storm are working in. You know, obviously all the pro teams will have them, but it just feels like to me the Storm have them, and they do promote them, but it feels like they go less noticed than the other times that the other pro teams are doing it. So I just like to shout out the Storm for that. And it's really cool to see that, and we'll be doing some more work to showcase some of that, you know, and how it's going throughout the course of the year. So we'll look at the team on the court. They sit at a 1-win, 2-loss record, which is good for 9th overall in WNBA, 5th in the Western Conference standing. Looking ahead, the Storm have 3 games this upcoming week. 2 of them are at home. They close out that East Coast road trip tonight, May 20th, at the New York Liberty in Brooklyn with a 4 o'clock tip-off time. As I mentioned, we don't Nega Gumike is a game time decision. We don't have that decision quite yet by the time this is being recorded. Then they come back home. The 21st is an off day. May 21st versus the Indiana Fever is a 7 o'clock start at Climate Pledge Arena. So the Storm will host the Fever and Caitlin Clark. The Fever have had a tough start to the season. I mean, they've played some tough opponents to begin the year. It's a tough learning experience, but it's going to be a packed house for that. I know that. So we'll see that. And then on the weekend, as we mentioned with the toy drive, May 25th versus the Washington Mystics at Climate Pledge Arena is a 6 o'clock start.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports. So I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.
We go over from our Sounders into the from our Storm into the Sounders segment of the show, and you know, we had that really exciting week last week with the Open Cup, with Andrew Thomas's extension, with the win over Portland. And then we get kind of a mid to mediocre clunker of a week. So we'll get into it. May 15th on the road at Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake, the top team currently in the Western Conference of MLS in terms of points. So not an easy feat. And the Sounders have struggled historically at Real Salt Lake anyway on the road there. The Sounders lose this one by a score of 0-2. No player of the match when we get shut out. That's just how it goes. This one was tough. It got physical. It got chippy a little bit towards the end of things. Seattle they had opportunities and they weren't able to convert. I mean, really since the Philadelphia game when they had so many opportunities and beat the Union on so many counters, the Sounders have gotten back to a struggle in terms of the opportunities and the pressure that they've generated. So there's that. and not a lot to say about that one. And then they returned home on May 18th for the second time that they've hosted the Vancouver Whitecaps this year. The first one, an ugly loss. Seattle had to deal with red cards, and it was frustrating. It was just kind of seemed like a really low point for the club this year. And then we get this one, which didn't seem like a low point for a large part of the match. It was a 1-1 draw. In the final, our player of the match for Jordan Morris, 1 goal, 3 shots, and 88% passing. Morris scored in the 8th minute. The Sounders had a lot of strong pressure early into this one, and like fresh out of the gate within those 8 minutes where Morris scored, and they largely dominated this match until we got into extra time. They dominated for 90 minutes. Then we get into the late part of it. Nuhu concedes a foul that gives Real Salt Lake a free kick. And then after that free kick, he's called for a penalty on a handball shortly after. And Ryan Gauld of Vancouver, wearing the captain's armband, scores this one, and it results in split points. There was a very controversial non-reviewed, non-call of a handball on a header from Jordan Morris that was aimed towards goal. Javon Brown of Vancouver handballed in terms of his arm got on it. A ball that was going straight towards goal, and it wasn't reviewed. It wasn't at all checked in the 80th minute. But then this Nuhu handball was, and it was reviewed a handball after VAR review. No explanation given. So that was frustrating. If you go up 2-0, it changes things a lot. And even if, somehow Vancouver gets a goal, they still have to come back if they want to draw. And instead we've got split points. But at the end of the day, I say you just got to be better. You can't let a call affect the match or calls affect the match. You have to be better than that, and the Sounders have not been that. So we look over directly into some injury-related news here. On the 17th, we learned that Leo Chu will miss 3 to 4 weeks after suffering an adductor strain in the loss to Real Salt Lake on Wednesday. Chu suffered the injury around the 17th minute, planting his leg awkwardly after he had made a cross. He did stay on the field for a few minutes after this, but he was removed in the 22nd minute. This is this is the second injury of the year for Chu after he missed 5 games with a knee tendon strain. He's played in 7 of the club's 13 matches this year with a goal and an assist. And it has shown some good play on the left wing position that he's got, but just, you've missed 5 games, now you're going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. Really unfortunate for a guy who has really wanted to, I think, solidify a position and earn some more starting minutes here. With really bad luck with these injuries, he hasn't been able to do so. So other few injury-related notes here provided by Brian Schmetzer. Obed Vargas dealing with a calf injury, was held out of the RSL match. Same with Raul Ruiz-Diaz, who was dealing with a foot injury. They were able to play against the Whitecaps. Josh Atencio, who's dealing with a hamstring injury, missed the Vancouver match, but said it would be a miracle if he was able to go on the U.S. Open Cup match against Phoenix Rising on Wednesday. But he is likely going to be available for selection against St. Louis City on the road this upcoming weekend. With some other team-related notes that generally relate to games that were played over the past week. On May 14th, it was announced that 21-year-old midfielder Georgie Minanogu was added to the Sounders roster on a short-term loan alongside right back and former University of Washington player Kalani Kosarienzi ahead of that match against Real Salt Lake. Roster rules do dictate that players can be signed to 4 separate short-term loans during which they can appear in 2 regular season games before they need to be offered a full contract. So I should check this because the ruling is if Minanogu played against Real Salt Lake, I got to remember this off the top of my head. If he played against RSL, we'll just get this information so I don't have to say if. Georgie. He did play. So Georgie is now still eligible for 2 more call-ups, but could only appear in U.S. Open Cup matches. Got it. So he can appear on Wednesday. Got it. Okay. Understood. I mean, with the way that Georgie's played, I wouldn't doubt that he gets offered a contract. Just with he's been an exciting guy in the ball, but we'll have to see that. So The Sounders currently sit at a 3-win, 6-loss, 5-draw record with 14 points on the season. That's good for 21st overall in the league standings and 10th in the Western Conference. Looking ahead, 2 matches this upcoming week for the Sounders, 1 in MLS regular season play and 1 in U.S. Open Cup play. The first one, May 22nd versus Phoenix Rising at Starfire with a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. That is the U.S. Open Cup round of 16. And then May 25th at St. Louis City is a 5:30 p.m. start on the road that is going to be broadcast on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. So, I mean, when we look here, at St. Louis City, they were such a large talk of the league when they came in with how much they succeeded. We look at them this season in the Eastern Conference. No, they're in the Western Conference. I'm sorry. They're just the place ahead of Seattle in the 9th spot in the Western Conference standing. They're not faring too much better than the Sounders. 3-win, 3-loss, 7-draw record, 16 points, 2 points ahead of the Sounders. I wouldn't really say much better form than the Sounders. The Sounders have 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss in their last 5 matches. And St. Louis City has 2 draws, only one win, and 2 losses in their last 5 matches. Those 2 losses coming back to back. So we'll have to see regarding that.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey. So where are you going to watch all of the Sounder away games this year?
Away games for the Sounders. Since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that's a great idea. Go Sounders. Hope we see y'all here.
So we head into our Kraken-related news here, and the only really thing that we have is more of a rumor, if anything else. So we go into it May 15th on the 32 Thoughts podcast with Elliot Friedman. Friedman reported his thoughts and his reporting. He said, regarding Seattle, I think there's 3 names when he's talking about their coaching search. Excuse me. With Coachella Valley Firebirds head coach Dan Bilesma, former LA Kings coach Todd McClellan, and Seattle Kraken assistant coach Jay Leach. He also added that there may be some internal disagreement regarding that coaching hire. In the quote, at different times, I think people have argued for different people. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. I mean, you look at those 3 names. I mean, McClellan, I just don't think it worked out. I think he was in LA longer than he should have been, so I would disagree with that hire. With Bilesma, it's obviously exciting. I mean, people have seen the success of the Firebirds the last few seasons. It's what he's done. He's a favorite there. He's done well with the organization, and obviously coaching at the AHL level there. He's got some NHL experience. Jay Leach has been a coach that, I heard rumors that he might be a head coach this last season and get hired from the Kraken, but he didn't. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see what the decision will be from there. I'm not sure. And Jay Leach is a guy, 44 years old, used to play in the National Hockey League. I don't know. All interesting to see. I would rule McClellan out, at least in my opinion. I would rule McClellan out. And at least from what I understand, I don't know if Dan Bilesma would want to give up the position he's got with the Firebirds in the organization here. I mean, he's got a solid position coaching the Firebirds. He's coached already at the NHL level. So I don't know. But that's what Elliot reported, and he's got more sources than me. So we go from that, and that's just all we've got with the Kraken as they remain in the offseason. Not a lot going on, as we've got eight players from the organization, 7 at the NHL level, 1 prospect in Oscar Fisker-Molgaard over at IIHF Worlds. We go into it with our Seattle Reign, and unfortunately, there was a tough week last week. There was the draw, and then the ugly loss at Portland, and we have news regarding that loss at Portland, but we'll go into what happened with the past week in terms of actual match play with the Reign. May 19th versus the Orlando Pride. The Pride sitting at the top of the NWSL table, so the second time in as many home games that the Reign have played a top team in the league, and I think the last 3 home games they've played top teams in the league with, we'll double check that, with Orlando, Kansas City, and then San Diego. So there was Orlando here. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Yeah, Orlando, Kansas City, and San Diego, all teams who sit atop the NWSL table. I think all 3 of them. Washington's back in there now, I believe. Apologies. We'll get standings here. I want to be sure. I always want to be sure. Yeah, Washington's in there. Oh, wait, the Wave are not. Ooh, wait, I was wrong. The Wave are not a top team. They just have some talent. So anyway, the last 2 home games you played the 2 top teams in the league, and then this upcoming week you'll play Washington, who's sitting at 3rd, and then the match after that you play Kansas City, who's a 2nd again. So tough. The Reign lose May 19th versus the Pride, a 2-3 loss. Our player of the match, Jess Fishlock. Fishlock, an 8.1 match rating, 1 assist, 3 shots, 87% passing percentage, 3 chances created on the day, and 11 passes into the final third. This was a tough match. Orlando just has so much attacking talent. Barbara Banda is at the top of that list and is one of the best players in the world at the moment. And the Pride were able to get 2 goals unanswered to begin this match in the first half. Unanswered, just some uncharacteristic defensive mistakes for the Reign, just kind of sloppy. Head coach Laura Harvey continues to use the word quality when talking about what this team has been lacking, and you kind of see that, with some of those mistakes that we've seen from the Reign in these losses like this. So that occurred right before halftime. Angharad James Turner, nicknamed Haz, was able to get a goal right before the half off a deflection. That goes in, and you cut the lead in half. 2 goals is often regarded as the easiest lead to blow in soccer. And so the Reign go into the half just down by a goal and with some momentum. We go into the second half. In the 48th minute, Bethany Balser scores to even things up on a great assist from Jess Fishlock. But unfortunately, Barbara Banda gets her second in response to that, and the Reign are not able to get a response goal, a third goal in the match to tie this thing up, and it results in a loss. Just frustrating, considering it really, at least in the last few matches, it really has felt like the Reign have been on the doorstep to changing things around. Obviously, you tie the current. You lose to Portland, but that match was close till late until that penalty that we'll talk about in a minute with team-related news was called, and then they kind of just add on there. It does feel like the Reign are just sort of, a little push away from changing the momentum and really pushing themselves over the line to get some of these results, whether it's into wins or even just draws, helping them move up in the standings. But they're just lacking that right now, and I mean, there is some time to be able to pull out from that, but it's not going to be an easy one, and especially as we continue the weeks on, and there's still an inability to push themselves forward. So we've got a few sort of notes from that win, though. In the loss. So against the Pride, Phoebe McClernand reached 50 regular season games played. And then with just Fishlock, with that assist on Bethany Balser's goal, Fishlock it's her 27th regular season assist of all time, which is the most assists in club history, standing alone with those 27. So impressive there. We look at the injury report versus the Pride. Same 3 that have been out for the last few matches, pardon me. Goalkeeper Claudia Dickey out with a knee injury. Forward Jordan Heidem out with a back injury. And midfielder Quinn, they are out with that knee injury. After the loss to the Pride, it was interesting to see with the stadium cleared out and after we had gotten back from the post-match press conferences, that a bunch of the players who were unavailable for selection and who were on the bench were getting in sort of a scrimmage and a practice of sorts. Jordan Heidem was there getting in work. Dickey and Quinn were not present for this one. Even asking Laura Harvey post-match, hearing from her some injury updates. Jordan Heidem is the closest. She's been on the field practicing with the team. Claudia Dickey and Quinn are not practicing with the team and are a little bit farther off from Heidema. So interesting to hear that from Harvey. And with seeing that practice and scrimmage, she wasn't wrong. So we've got that. We'll go into team-related news. On the 18th, it was pro referees admitted to an error in their weekly review of VAR calls from the prior match day. So we'll go back into it. We'll set the scene for you. In the 75th minute, the Reign were trailing Portland by the 1 goal. Late into this, it's a big rivalry match, and they're trying to get back into it. Portland forward Peyton Linehan had the ball within the Seattle box, and Sofia Huerta was doing her job defending. Linehan attempted to get a shot off, and replays showed that the ball ricocheted off of Sofia's foot before striking her in the arm. Linehan, went for a handball call, but play continued on as it was waved off. as the referee Abdu Nadaye said that Sophia Huerta's arm was in a natural position, and the Reign recovered the ball and headed towards midfield. So you avoid that. You're still down by a goal, and then you're trying to go ahead and get that goal back. VAR official Adore Monroy and AVAR Kaylee Terry reviewed the incident, as VAR did review that match. Reviewed it and then did give the handball to the penalty to Portland. Reviewed the incident as play continued and did decide that Huerta's arm was away from her body and thus created a barrier, and requested that Nadaye stopped play to initiate a review. After calling Nadaye over to the screen, they confirmed that there was no offside in the build-up to this incident, and proceeded to show him several angles to demonstrate that Huerta's arm was outstretched. In one point, so they put these videos out, right? Pro does when they review these things. At one point in review, Nadaye can be heard questioning the decision to review the play, asking, "Doesn't the ball touch her foot first?" To which Monroy responds, "I do not have the ball touching her foot first," even though if you look at the clip, it shows exactly that happening, which is pretty maddening. Ultimately, Nadaye was convinced to call the penalty and issue a caution to Huerta, and then head coach Laura Harvey received a caution for dissent, as Sophia Huerta scored that penalty kick, and then the Thorns went on to add on and win that match. So obviously that penalty changes a lot. In Pro's estimation, not only was Sophia Huerta's arm in a justifiable position given the body movement, but the ball did, in fact, deflect off of her foot first and change direction before striking her arm, meaning that a penalty should not have been called. So not only, as I've said a third time now, was that call incorrect, but the folks who were reviewing it in the moment and then had the head official who got the call right initially wrong in reviewing it. But, this just changes the outcome of a match because, if the play doesn't stop, the Reign were coming back for a counterattack and they're down by 1 at this point. They can still tie it and even get another goal and go ahead if they're able to score. This is big. This can change seasons. Maybe a big win in Portland is what the Reign would have needed to get moving forward. Instead, incompetency from those running VAR and AVAR, makes this match, and then Pro's estimation, there's just no consequence for this currently. They get to learn that I almost said a bad word. They get to learn that the call was messed up, but there's nothing that can be done at this point. There's no point in telling them at the end of it. So it's obviously really frustrating, as you can hear me get really excited about it. But there's nothing that can be done now, and outside of knowing that you've been cheated. So, sorry, very, very animated. Anyway, there is another piece of team news coming on Monday the 20th. Forward Emery Adames has been named to the U.S. Youth National Team U20 May training camp roster ahead of the matches that they'll play against the Korea Republic on May 31st and June 3rd. So congratulations to Emery for that. Obviously a very talented young player that we've seen some great potential from. Even in the loss to Orlando, there was a ball, I believe, just hit the edge of the box that Adames had some space for and got a shot off. Just unfortunately wasn't able to get an accurate hit on it. It doesn't end up mattering. But no, Adames has shown great speed and has shown that she can be a game wrecker. And when she's able to kind of tighten some things up, it'll be really exciting to see what she's able to accomplish, with the team. So looking ahead, the Reign have a 2-win, 7-loss, 1-draw record. They're sitting at 13th in the NWSL table, just one spot ahead of the last spot in the table with 7 standings points. Looking ahead, their next match on the road, May 24th at the Washington Spirit. That's a 4:30 p.m. kickoff time. It will be broadcast on NWSL Plus and Kong. Obviously, with any of the road games, whether it's the Mariners, the Storm, the Sounders, in terms of teams that are actively playing, and the Reign, you want to head to our home, home of Circling Seattle Sports, that is Rough and Tumble Pub over in Ballard. Whether it's the excellent service, the great food, or obviously playing all of these games to support our Seattle teams, there just really isn't a better place for you to watch these matches. So it's going to be a tough match for the Reign. I mean, again, as I mentioned, the Spirit, since the Reign last saw Washington, which was the opening match when the Reign got their first win of the season, the Spirit now sit at 3rd place in the NWSL table with 21 points, 3 points behind Orlando, 1 point behind the Current, as Washington has a 7-win, 3-loss, 0-draw record. So not going to be easy, but you got to start the turnaround somewhere. So
Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all the away games for Seattle Reign FC this year?
Away games. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See y'all here.
We look over here to our Seawolves as we get towards the sort of latter half of the show. And, last week they were upset by the NOLA Gold, a team that's kind of in the middle of the Eastern Conference in USMLR. And this week, playing against the Dallas Jackals team that's largely struggled in their existence since they were created as an expansion side. The Seawolves are upset again. I mean, the Jackals, they're not at the bottom of the league table, not like RFC, Los Angeles, or Anthem RC, or even Miami. But, they're 5-6 with this win, and third place in the Western Conference, 9 points behind the Seawolves, and they toppled the Seawolves. So the Seawolves lose this one by a score of 7-14. Obviously, very low scoring in this one. This one was tough because really quickly. Oh, wow. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Really quickly into this match, the Seawolves would lose Captain Riekert Hadding. So Dallas got on the board first with a converted try, and they would get a second one after that. And then the Seawolves would lose Riekert Hadding with an injury before the halftime mark. Ultimately, Devon Rousseau scored Sale's first points, and the kick was good to cut it in half at 7-14. But the Seawolves unable to get any more than that. And the Seawolves end up falling. Their third match of the season, second loss in a row. Very low scoring. It obviously hurts to not have your captain there, but, they're in a little bit of a rut here. Tough to see them lose back-to-back weeks. And, largely they're at full capacity, so I'm unsure what the issues are. But just tough there to lose that one. And then to not be with not have your captain available for most of the match as he went out before halftime. So tough one there. With team-related news, we'll look at a few things from last match week. Alpha pack of the match for the last week against NOLA Gold was Devon Rousseau. His rugby journey began in Windhoek, Nambia, and he has remained a formidable force on the pitch for the Seawolves. In 79 minutes played in match 10, 2 tries scored, 90 meters gained, 10 ruck arrivals, and 3 defenders beaten against NOLA. Then we go over here to forward pack leader of the match, Hugh Taylor. Hugh Taylor, his rugby career has taken him from England's U18 and U20 teams to prominent roles with the Worcester Warriors and Dragons RFC, and obviously now over here with our Seawolves. In 79 minutes played in match 10, 1 try scored, 24 meters gained, 12 ruck arrivals, and 20 tackles. Jesus, 20 tackles made. Goodness gracious. So there's that from this past match day. We'll have those two forward pack and forward and alpha packs of the match from this loss to Dallas next week for you because they come later. Later in the week. But also there is an upcoming piece of fun news for the next match, Friday, May 24th, that Circling Seattle Sports will be at in person. There's a few different things for that match. So May 12th, we'll throw it into looking ahead, kind of. The Seawolves sit at 8 wins, 3 losses for 41 standing points, second in the league, second in the Western Conference in total points. The next match is Friday, May 24th at Starfire versus Old Glory DC with a 7:30 kickoff time. That, if you're not able to attend it in person, that is available to watch on Fox 13 Plus and the Rugby Network. But there are a few fun things to look at outside of the actual match that's taking place on the field at Starfire. So Old Glory DC, they're a team that, the results haven't been too kind to them. 4 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws on the year, as they sit at 4th place in the Eastern Conference. But in terms of, the excitement that's going to come in attending this match, it's their military night for the Seawolves. It's a double feature as Army versus Navy will play from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. There's a happy hour from 6 to 7 p.m. with $1 off all drinks. The Army versus Navy match trophy presentation lasts from 6 p.m. to 6:20 p.m. There's a color guard presentation at 7:30. The national anthem will be done by Tricia Shear from the 1330 Army Band of Joint Base Lewis McChord. There's the Army versus Navy tug of war at halftime. The Army Rugby Union 50-50 raffle announcement at the second hydration break. There will be a Navy Sabre and Army Rifle Weapon Award silent auction and military merch from the Seawolves available. In addition to that, big news here in regards to Seattle and someone who's, obviously got some ties to this area. Macklemore will be joining the Seawolves for Seattle Unites, which is presented by Bridges and the Seattle Seawolves. So Seattle Unites, the Seawolves announced they're working together to build the future of Seattle through connection, culture, and camaraderie. Bridges provides a safe, sober space for teens to recover. So Macklemore will be at this match on Friday, and so will we. I wonder if we'll be able to talk to Macklemore. That would be pretty cool. So that's all we've got for our Seawolves and all of our Seattle sports this past week. We don't have anything for our Orcas, unfortunately, as we're 46 days away from the U.S. Major League Cricket season beginning. For our Orcas, as they reached the championship last year, and we'll hopefully look to win it all this year. But again, as I've talked about the last 2 weeks or so, in the month of May, there are some teams who are in their off season, like the Seahawks, like the Kraken. They've still got news coming up with the teams that are playing right now, with the Mariners, the Storm, the Sounders, the Reign, the Seawolves. There's a lot going on. So in addition to that, there's just so much taking place. So with that, I want to thank you for tuning in today. I want to encourage you to check out the Circling Seattle Sports website to get your Seattle Sports merch from us. It supports our work and what we do and helps make our stuff better. So you'll start to see some of those improvements coming soon. I love my hat. I mean, it's nice fit, it's adjustable. The logo is great to see in person. It's really surreal to me. So, with these away games, again, head out to our home, Rough and Tumble Pub, the official home of Circling Seattle Sports. So go and see that. Great food, great people there, and just the ability to have all those games on all those screens is wonderful, that you can watch whatever you want to watch, within reason, of course. So until we see you next week at the end of the month of May, take care of yourselves, be well, and do whatever you can to make today a great day.